Matt fails. Consider this a general reply to to this series of videos. Really, it's one from I think it's 4 days ago that I've been thinking about that I decided to reply to. Though I also just now watched this one, and I'm willing and happy to let you just do your own thing. But you ask, don't we see? Don't we see? Don't we see how you're going to help us? I by no means think you're obligated to help us. But you present these arguments and ask us, don't we see, don't we see, don't we see? And I'm going to tell you what I see. Okay, one, no, I do not see how it'll all help us, how this is supporting you in this role is necessarily helping you help us. Because I can assume every important thing your way, that you are well-meaning in your intentions, that the money you would be paid will not go to your head, and you will remember this pay back and pay forward. You want to reciprocate, even after you didn't get the support you've asked for. And I could assume all of those things, and still, no, it doesn't necessarily matter. You might be a wonderful villain that's gets typecast and thought of as somewhat insane, and hurt what you advocate. People will think of the whole idea of talking philosophy online is insane. Now, I'm not saying I think that would happen. I'm just saying that you don't know. Why would you think you know? Have you visualized it? Has it come to you as something that is meant to happen, or that you can visualize and make happen? Because here's the thing. When it turned out that E equals mc squared and that mass was energy, the question of his life as a dream ceased to have meaning. It had been debated for thousands of years, but on the basis that if it was not a dream, that matter had substance. It was like clay and sand and glass beads. When it turned out all that stuff was energy, the question of is it's a dream doesn't really matter anymore. I'll tell you what I mean, right? If we are all made of consciousness, then energy is consciousness. Or step back from that for a second and just, if you are visualizing the good results of landing in a major part like this, you're not the only one. There's a lot of people that have worked very hard to be in a position or just want very hard. Such a chance as that, right? There's other people. If life is like a dream, it's not like the dream at night. That's a bad metaphor. That's an unhealthy metaphor, because that's where your ego is the king and God and power. This is a dream we share with everybody else. So their wants and desires come in contact with our wants and desires. Which brings me to what I was about to say a few moments ago. If the universe is consciousness, then energy is consciousness. What we see the energy, and it's something someone's going to tell me that it's consciousness in reality that I'm seeing, then the idea that it's something other than consciousness, that's an illusion. But that it exists, that's not an illusion. It's just that it's made of consciousness. So the photon is made of consciousness. So every photon is conscious. So you can't beam light out your fingers just by willing it, because what is the photon? Your slave, your metaphysical slave. You can just beam it out? No, it has a desire too. And photons like running things by the book. It's a weird book. There's lots of flexibility in it. But they run it by the book. They're like, no, I'm about getting absorbed by this molecule in this cone cell. No, but I want to beam you out my finger. Well, tough shit. Maybe if you build a flashlight, I might consider it. See what I'm saying? So you can't know that things are going to work out just right, because you don't know that all the other energies involved don't have just as important or more powerful visualizations. And it's true that the person that wins doesn't deserve to win necessarily. It goes by the power of these visualizations in this reality. It becomes meaningless to question if life is a dream, because no matter what, we're not going to be free from the natural patterns. We do not want to be free. These are what is communicating with us. This is what our spiritual feeling is connected to. The more you accept the messages from reality and principles from natural philosophy that repeat themselves and show themselves to you, the more you accept them rather than think transcendence is to transcend them, you know, the more spiritual feelings you will have, the more powerful they will be. Okay? So the point does not become to transcend the real patterns of nature. The point is to transcend your hang-ups that are in the way of you accepting these facts of reality. You understand? Anything that gets in the way of you accepting reality, that is the hang-up. That is what needs to be transcended. And it's a cognitive thing in your mind. Whether your mind was a traditionally old, somewhat classical psychology, or some weird quantum brain, or even pure consciousness, of some dreamlike thing. It all comes down to the same thing. You need to be able to accept that dream in the parts that are consistent and real. The law of conservation of energy. You know, that to fly you have to build a flying apparatus or grow one, to accept these things, uh, is the struggle and the hang up, and what we need to transcend is nothing but our barriers. The tranquility, lies in accepting things as they are, but a lot of people would like to think that means you could pretend to accept them as they are, but you can't. You have to really accept. You can't just say, oh, that is the way it is, because you don't understand it yet. To truly accept, you have to continue to try to understand more. So it's a lot of hard work to learn how to accept uh, the patterns, the consistent patterns of nature, and which ones not to accept because they seem so certain, but they weren't. And, for that, we simply have a perpetual research into nature. And we gain a tremendous amount from this, because the so-called laws of nature are beautiful things. They're beautiful things, right? The way humans have searched for these patterns, like all of the thought that was put into conic sections, and then it turns out that any body moving in the gravitational field, like a comet or a planet or anything in the gravitational field of the sun, moves in one of these slices of a conic section. This is beautiful. It's hard to convey. I wish I could convey to people how beautiful that is. But it's only beautiful because there's 100 histories and ideas like that, of which that's just a really good example. Okay. The things we have extracted from nature are beautiful to accept. Relativity, and the idea that we were going to be constrained to, for example, the deterministic Newtonian idea, I would have tried to accept that too, and my reward would have been that eventually accepting that led, because Newtonian physics is relativistic too in the Galilean sense, and it follows eventually from the Galilean relativity that there's general relativity. And so my reward for accepting that we were all slaves of determinism would be the discovery of relativity, and that we're not, for that matter, quantum mechanics eventually. You know. So we continue to accept what is apparent, and to the degree that we're a bit disappointed with what seems to be apparent, we keep looking and we entertain those things. And there's always fiction to consider them and make sure that we keep challenging ourselves with those possibilities. And in reality, even during the classical model, there was plenty of room to believe in free will and that determinism uh, wouldn't turn out to be the case, because there were some laws that made it seem like determinism would be the case, and there are other situations in our life, the majority in our normal life, that made it seem like, no, we must be missing something. We must not have all the physics yet. It just turned out that that was more likely, that we still need the physical explanation. In which years?